All right, welcome to the Two Sons Podcast. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Star Wars is back.
It's back, baby.
Back.
Yeah.
Shit's happening.
Big time. Dude, I have not felt this excited about Star Wars literally in years.
Dude, I can tell. And me too. And I'm like, what's funny is like you're processing all the information better than I am because I have been like completely thrown for a loop by this episode in a good way. But like, I think I'll be more on your level of excitement once I actually kind of process everything and understand it better.
When I saw the Mortis Gods at the end of that episode, I was shocked. Absolutely shocked. F-wording shocked. I almost dropped an F-bomb. Sorry, Mom. I know you're a biggest fan.
I've done a few.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Katie would not be a fan.
No, she'd be pissed.
I'm sorry, Katie. I'm sorry for corrupting.
Yeah, I've been corrupted.
Okay.
Dude, so incredible stuff.
Really quickly before we get started, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We've been obviously blown away by the support, but if you guys would do that, that would mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
We're going to us, I should say. We're going to definitely like go over this episode, and we're going to dive into the lore and what all of this means to a certain extent. However, we will be doing another episode next week where we take an even deeper dive into this because I need to rewatch Clone Wars stuff. I need to familiarize myself with some Legends material. Like there's so much stuff that is like so beyond. So my prediction going into last week was, first of all, cheers, buddy.
Hey, cheers, man.
We made it through Ahsoka.
I know.
I don't even know what show.
Dude, we'll have to get another job. We'll have to get another job while we wait for the next Star Wars content.
So, my big prediction at the end of last week's episode was that everyone's going to escape, but Baylan is going to end up running into some gigantic entity that was going to essentially be bigger and badder than anything that we've discovered in the Star Wars universe so far. And that essentially was more or less right, except for Ahsoka and Sabine got left behind too. Shin Hati decided she wants to be a mercenary warlord. Good for her. Good for her. Good for Shin, you know?
Yeah, just choose your battles.
Yeah, exactly.
Be powerful where you can.
Baylan wanted her to go like be with the Empire, and instead she's going to lead some mercenaries. So good for her. And then Baylan runs into the basically is caught standing next to a giant statue, which at first I'm like, okay, cool, this is going to be like some sort of weird statue. But then as it zooms out, it's got the cone-shaped thing that the father is wearing,
which we'll talk about. Yeah, for anybody who has no clue what's happening. If the father confuses you, you're not alone. Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But basically, we have a reference to the Mortis Gods, and in the distance,
you see the sun as well. And then the head of the daughter is like sheared off and disappeared.
Yes.
Which I think was symbolic for her death, which we'll talk about more.
Yeah, we will. But in theory, all of them are dead. So like the thing with the daughter could get even weirder.
Again, stick with us if you have no clue what's going on. We will talk about this.
But Baylan sees off in the distance a kind of a pinnacle mountain, with a light at the top in the shape of kind of like a diamond.
Yeah, like a Sims logo. The things that follow like Sims characters around, but it's over the mountain, so something good is there.
But that specific symbolic that is the same pattern that we see when Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka get called in to see the Mortis Gods, and they look off in the distance and they see the monastery. It literally looks like that.
The father's monastery has that same like pinnacle Sims logo thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get to that in a little bit. But basically, like the Baylan's running into some sort of thing that is attached to the Mortis Gods in some way, but all three Mortis Gods are dead, okay? So we're going to get to that in a little bit, but there's a lot that could be going on there, and Ezra is going back with Thrawn. No time portal, they get back in the same time frame. Mm-hmm. Ezra somehow manages to sneak off and go meet up with the Republic, which is cool. They get a little reunion with Hera.
Because Hera is essentially his like pseudo mom after his actual parents had died.
Mm-hmm.
So that meeting of Hera and Ezra is massive for the Star Wars universe. Like, that was like so special and so cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Thrawn, presumably as some sort of deal he made with the mothers, drops them off on, could be dropping them off on Dathomir, could be something else on Dathomir. There's still no like indication of what these cargo crates that they brought.
I think they're caskets.
They could be.
I legitimately think they're dead troopers that they're going to reanimate.
It could also
and then that'll be like one of his major fighting forces. I think that's going to be a bunch of zombie stormtroopers, which, by the way, zombie stormtroopers in Star
Pretty
Wars,
dope.
part of canon, which used to be only Legends material, is here. Like, we've seen zombie stormtroopers.
Wait, did we see zombie stormtroopers in Legends?
Yeah. So like the term Death Trooper, before it was used as like the big buff like black stormtroopers that we see in like Rogue One. The term Death Trooper actually came from a comic series where stormtroopers were like reanimated and they were zombies.
Oh, okay. See, that's awesome. I had no idea about that. So it could be that. It could also be, we know that the actual Night sisters themselves can reanimate each other, reanimate the Night brothers and things like that. There's a bunch of different things that could be going on there. It could be that it could literally be a bunch of dead Night sisters that were killed by whatever Balin's running into.
Who knows?
There's all sorts of loose ends.
And that's like the smallest of things to talk about.
Yeah. And like the actual episode itself wasn't really all that eventful. Two TIE fighters came in and tried to shoot at the ship, and Hu Yang and Sabine saved the day, right?
Yep.
Then they basically like bum rush the monastery thing and get inside, and they fight their way up to the
again,
Star
fighting
Destroyer.
zombie stormtroopers. That was like the dopest thing in the entire world.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But literally, like the movie just ends with like a bunch of gigantic cliffhangers.
Right.
And it's hard to, or the show, I should say. But it's hard to even know where to start. Where do you want to start? Which specific, should we start with Thrawn and the New Republic?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. That's a huge topic. There was a quote by Thrawn, and it's actually,
I think I know what you're going to say.
It was a conversation between Morgan Elsbeth and Thrawn, and they were talking about how there was the small group of stormtroopers that were essentially going to sacrifice themselves in order to try and slow down Ahsoka and Sabine and Ezra, right? Mm-hmm. And then where was it? So I think Morgan Elsbeth says, "All were honored to make the sacrifice for you." And then Thrawn goes, "It's for the Empire and the security of the galaxy."
Yes.
So that is reminiscent of the good guy Thrawn mantra that you and I have been talking about, right? So like, yes, like he's talking about the Empire, which is a little bit bothersome for me. Like it feels like a little bit lame that Thrawn, who is he's so much more universal than just the Empire, is so worried about it reestablishing the Empire and for the Empire. Like that seems a little bit off for me, but he follows up with, "It's for the galaxy as a whole," which is very Thrawn-esque.
Yeah, and he basically said what we expected him to say, which is that the purpose is benevolent in nature, in the sense that he believes a military state. It was something that he goes into a lot in the books, which is an extensive fleet of ships with a versatile group of fighters and stuff. That's why he was big on the TIE Defender project instead of the Star Destroyer or the Death Star. So like that ends up being essentially the way he thinks the galaxy should work and the way he thinks it'll end up being safer for everybody.
Right.
By the way, you know who really got the short end of the stick is Morgan Elsbeth.
Oh, for
They're
sure.
like, "By the way, you're promoted.
I know.
Here's your sword.
Yes.
Okay, now go fight them. We're gonna get on the ship and we're gonna go away."
Yes, but girl, you're kicking ass. Good job. Enjoy your new black eyes.
Yeah. I didn't remember, literally. Yeah, enjoy your gigantic pupils that fill up your whole eyes now. And
she's
by the way,
terribly sensitive to all light because her pupils are so dilated all the time.
Thrawn's like walking back on the Star Destroyer for the Empire.
Yeah,
Bye.
for the Empire.
We'll
and then one of the Night sisters, as she's walking by, just kind of like looks at her, just head bobs, and Morgan's just like, "Yeah, peace and blessings, everybody." Yeah, what is it called? Like this, the gift of shadows. Is what
the gift of shadows, and then the blade of Talzin, which is a reference to Mother Talzin, who was basically the Night Mother who was in charge of all of the Night sisters on Dathomir.
Which they go back to at the end of Ahsoka. Like literally,
but Talzin dies in Clone Wars, I'm pretty sure. Right?
I can't remember. Yeah,
I
honestly can't remember.
Like I said, another thing we'll get to next week.
Yeah. So good guy Thrawn, slightly. He's still very much for the Empire. But again, like one of our theories here is he might be using the remnants of the Empire in order to gain power and still decrease the amount of chaos that's happening in the known galaxy where all of Star Wars has traditionally been. So yes, it's for the Empire. That seems a little bit lame for Thrawn just because he's like, again, so much more universal than that. But it's probably just a vehicle, in my opinion, for him to essentially create like power and decrease the likelihood of chaos, which in his theory is the way to create peace essentially across the galaxy.
Yeah, and I think that is going to be the plot of a show. I don't know what they'll call it. They presumably could call it Thrawn.
Thrawn and Friends.
Thrawn and Friends, yeah. Thrawn and Friends, like Ezra v. Thrawn round 3, you know, like whatever it is. Like I kind of like the way they're setting that up because like my new prediction, you know, I always have a prediction.
Oh, yeah. Dude, it's a podcast. Like we can lean into the corniness of the podcast.
I'm wrong most of the time, but you know what's great about that is like you respond to new information, suddenly you're not wrong
and
anymore.
your best friend is wrong with you, Jay.
Yes, exactly.
We're both wrong together, pal.
So I think this is going to divert now into 2 shows, and I think it's going to be essentially there's going to be a show called Thrawn or called something that involves essentially like because the way they pitch the Rebels TV show is essentially it's Thrawn versus Ezra.
Correct.
Right? And Ezra wins. And Thrawn swears to never let that happen again. So it's like perfect kind of like conflict. Thrawn versus Ezra. It'll probably be like a very naval combat heavy
hopefully
show, which would be really, really damn cool. Then there's going to be Ahsoka season 2, which I think is going to take on a heavy emphasis of everything that's going on in this other galaxy. Or it could literally be Ahsoka season 2 and just follow both storylines.
Correct. Yeah.
But those are there. I think the storylines are diverting temporarily.
There's definitely 2 solid storylines.
Yes,
for sure.
We know from the Mortis Gods episodes, which again we're going to get into in a little bit, that Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka essentially teleport to this place.
Yes.
So it's very possible that when Ahsoka identifies the Mortis Gods iconography, that she just suddenly goes like, wait, okay, hold on. We might be able to find a way to essentially teleport back to the other galaxy to get home or something along those lines.
Perhaps.
So like that it's interesting to see, but like I do like because here's the thing. It is going to be cool to see Thrawn, you know, I will cuss. Sorry, Katie. Fuck shit up a little bit. Okay. So like it'll be fun to see. It'll be fun to see Thrawn fuck shit up a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I agree.
So like he'll do.
Dude, I agree.
Before all of a sudden they do have to team up and like.
Thrawn has a brilliant military mind, and where you really see that shine is through his books.
Yes,
the books about Thrawn, and it's very difficult to portray that on screen. But just take it for our word. Thrawn has probably the greatest military mind in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, that's what his character is. He's the Star Wars version of the genius military mind. Like. Just imagine that mixed with Sherlock Holmes, and that's basically what you get.
Really quick, before we move on, I'm not super convinced that Sabine and Ahsoka are really going to try and get back. I really don't know, because another quote that I wrote down is Ahsoka says, "It's time to move on." Like it like literally seems like they're just like, oh, well, we missed the boat, aka as
our purpose is here now.
Yeah, and like we're here to do this and live with these egg people.
Yeah, so I agree with you from the standpoint of the short term. Like I thought Ahsoka. So Ahsoka saw the little bird thing. Can you give everybody a breakdown of what the bird thing is?
The owl.
The owl.
Yeah. Okay. So that means we're jumping into like the deep down Star Wars lore of Mortis and the father, son, and daughter,
which we're gonna get to in just a second.
I'm like this close to being like the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, but like it's different in Star Wars.
The father, son, and the daughter. Yes,
the father, son, and the daughter.
But it's similar type of like whatever. I keep blanking on whatever the word I'm trying to find is.
So really quick on that too. Complete side note again. In one of my favorite movies of all time is The Inside Man. And there's a part in it where they're talking about symbolism, and there's this
symbolism
guy.
Thank you. I keep trying to say symbology.
But that's the joke. Is in The Inside Man, they talk about symbology, and he's like, it's symbolism. It's symbolism.
Thank you. Like I swear, I just randomly.
Dude, we need to do a breakdown on Inside sometimes. Man. Anyways, But
before we get to the Mortis Gods, though, I do think the bird, which we're going to explain,
Morai.
I do think Morai, the bird, when Ahsoka saw the owl.
She's not like a freaking crow, Jay. She's a beautiful white owl.
Owls are birds, man.
Yeah,
this is semantics,
they're raptors of the sky.
Yes, they are. And by the way, I got to see a bunch of owls and like pet them when I was in Japan, which was like a cool experience for me because I love owls. But it was really sad because the Japanese people were like chaining these owls to trees, and honestly, I was like, this feels like a really fucked up life for an owl to live.
Dude, that sounds like it kind of sucks. But who knows? Who knows what they do after hours? You know, they might get some.
Yeah, maybe they get to party in that little room.
Maybe they get to attack some rats.
Yeah, or they just bring a chained rat next to it. But anyway, when Ahsoka saw Morai, I thought that she quickly interpreted that as like, you were supposed to be left behind.
Yes, I agree.
I thought that was instantaneous, and I think that she relayed that to Sabine through that comment, and then Anakin's appearance at the end, I think same thing. Like,
I totally agree, man.
Very much of like, this is how this was supposed to go. Like,
yes,
like this is
where you guys need to be. This galaxy, whatever you guys are doing inside the greater universe. Yes, this is exactly where you guys need to be. Totally agree with you.
Explain the Mortis gods to our listeners as if they've never even ever heard that phrase before.
All right, there's this movie series named Star Wars.
Once upon a time,
came out in the 70s. This genius named George Lucas had this crazy idea. No, all jokes aside, and I honestly, please interject, because it's super difficult to explain this stuff, especially when there's so many unknowns.
I don't think we have to get super far into detail too.
No, okay,
like
so
just the basic framework of what happened.
Season 3 of all seasons of Clone Wars,
and there's 6 seasons.
Yeah, season 3, for whatever reason, Dave Filoni, the mastermind behind Clone Wars, goes into the deep depths of Star Wars lore. And Ahsoka, whom everybody knows at this point, who's mainstream now, which is dope, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi all are supposed to be like on this mission and then somehow end up on this planet called Mortis. And we meet these 3 entities. One of which is...
Oh, and also it's not actually a planet. It's like a prism-shaped...
It's like...
It looks like a space station.
Alien-esque.
But the interior of it is like basically imagine a planet. Like it has a landscape.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this planet
organic,
represents balance between the light side and the dark side.
Yes.
This all makes sense so far, right?
Yeah, it's basically a giant allegory for the war between the light and dark and the balance of the
exactly.
Force, yeah.
So the head figure is whom they call the Father, and he's this aging entity that essentially has put his daughter, who represents the light, and his son, who represents the dark side, all onto this planet in order to contain them. Because he knew that if they were out, their powers were so impactful that they could literally just create chaos across the universe.
And they're so damn powerful. At one point, Anakin like pulls his lightsaber on the sun, and the sun like literally just takes it out of his hands with the Force and goes like, "We have no need for these crude instruments here." Yeah. Just obscenely powerful, way more powerful than any Force user in the known galaxy.
He like deignites. Is that a word? Probably.
Deignites. I don't know.
He extinguishes. That's
the way they say it in the books.
He extinguishes Anakin's lightsaber just by like moving his hand. Like that's how powerful these beings are. So anyways,
but Anakin has power too, though.
Yes, he does. So they're on this planet, right? And then it's this battle between good and evil. Essentially, the Father wants to figure out if Anakin truly is the balance between the light side and the dark side, aka the chosen one.
And the Father is the one who basically reached out and contacted the Jedi Order and essentially knew that Anakin and Obi-Wan would get sent there.
Yes. Yeah. So, and actually, we're going to talk about like a theory of mine next episode. Okay. Because we can't even get into that right now. Mm-hmm. So anyways, long story short, Anakin then proves himself by being in an arena that the Father, it's like this nasty, sick game that the Father sets up, and he puts Anakin inside this arena where the son is about to kill Obi-Wan, the son is about to kill Ahsoka, the daughter is about to kill Obi-Wan, and Anakin is forced to pick which one he wants to save, and he shows that he's truly the chosen one, the balance between light and dark by saving them both, which only the chosen one
He can basically subjugate both. Yeah.
Fast forward a little bit. Essentially, the son becomes unhinged, wants to start ruling the Father,
and wants to escape
Mortis, and the daughter and father want to stop that from happening. Ahsoka gets taken in a very creepy way, which we won't even get into, by the son, and essentially gets like perverted into this like other Ahsoka who like hates Anakin and is like evil, right? And then long story short, the daughter ends up sacrificing herself via the sword that can own, like the sword that's used to kill, the father, son, and daughter.
This sword clearly has like a magical ability to kill these specific beings.
Yes.
Because they're invulnerable to everything else. But yeah, like the son basically tries to kill the father with it.
Exactly.
But then the daughter jumps in front and dies.
Via the sword.
Yes.
And then as she's barely alive, because Ahsoka's terribly damaged and on her, deathbed essentially, the Anakin Skywalker and the father, this all sounds crazy. Stick with us, please. Essentially do this ritual, and the last living essence of the daughter is transferred into Ahsoka Tano
to save her life,
which is a massive deal. Which is why Ahsoka is looked at as almost like
she's a creature of the light, and that is why this little owl thing, bird.
Yes, bird. So this is the Morai is this owl that represents the daughter, and throughout like even Mandalorian, you'll see like the owl show up, and that is essentially the entity of the daughter that still follows Ahsoka after the daughter essentially gave up her life for Ahsoka.
So the daughter's dead, but somehow some part of her life essence exists in this bird.
Exactly.
Somehow. Yeah.
Fast forward even further, the father ends up killing himself with the sword, and then that kills the son, who's directly linked to the father.
The son's trying to escape to go mess up the galaxy, and the father takes his own life because he knows when he dies that the son loses his power.
Yes.
And which makes you wonder why the son tried to kill the father to begin with.
True. So that is like really all we know. Okay, and then what that means for Ahsoka?
Yeah, a couple of important details. That's not just a throwaway episode. The Mortis gods have other appearances. They show up in Rebels towards the end when in the Jedi Temple on Lothal. They're there. Clearly, it's something that they talk about in the Jedi Temple growing up because it's a part of that other galaxy that's out there, right?
Correct.
And Ahsoka was a part of all of this. So the point is like, Baylan may or may not recognize the Mortis gods when he sees them. Ahsoka will.
I think he would, because Baylan grew up in the Jedi Temple.
Yeah, so he might have heard these stories.
I think he would. Yeah.
But like Ahsoka is going to see the Mortis gods and immediately suss all of this out and then be able to figure out what's going on.
But the big question is like, are there remnants of the Mortis gods, or is she going to come across, she and Baylan, I should say, are they going to come across this, I don't know, maybe like devout followers of the Mortis gods, or literally I have no clue how this is portrayed.
We've heard a lot of people in the comments on our TikTok videos that we do talking about this creature called Abeloth. Now, to be clear, Luke and I have not read the Legends books that involve this creature called Abeloth. We've just kind of basically read up on her, but we will educate ourselves more on Abeloth.
Correct.
But
and again, this is a deep dive, so just hear us out. Do not, this is important. We'll try and explain it.
Yeah, but Abeloth is essentially a fourth Mortis god, for lack of a better term, that became one by accident. Like, it was a mortal being that was acting as the mother of the two kids, who then underwent this ritual that turned her into an immortal person, but then she turns evil. And then in all the expanded universe books, we're and I'm talking all the stuff that happens after Return of the Jedi that's not canon anymore, like Luke getting married to Mara Jade Skywalker, or his kid being named Ben as opposed to Han Solo's kid, who gets named Jason, which is ironic because Hera names her kid Jason. It's really confusing. But basically, we don't know what this entity is, but there's going to be some entity that is associated with the Mortis gods. I don't know if it's one of the Mortis gods who's still alive, or if it's this Abeloth character, or if it's another character. Now, we know from Filoni, I saw this on Instagram the other day, and it was really interesting. Filoni has said on the record, whenever they choose to bring in a new entity, they will always try to find a Legends character that fits the mold, because they would rather strike familiarity than starting from ground zero.
True.
That was basically what he said was the reasoning behind bringing Thrawn back.
True.
For the same reason.
So what's really interesting about the whole entire absence of the Mortis gods now is we pretty much already have one, which is Ahsoka. And I wonder who could represent the father, which very well still may be Anakin. As the balance.
Well, because the father literally in the Mortis God episodes asks Anakin to take his spot.
I know, and Anakin's like, "Nah, I'm good. I don't want kids."
Hard pass, actually.
And then perhaps
I'm married, actually.
Yeah.
So how's that work?
Yeah. And then so we need to find someone to take the place of the son. It could be Balin. It could be Shinhati. Both of them are still on that planet.
We have no idea.
Yeah, it could be Anakin. It could be someone that we don't know. What's super interesting though is like at the end of this episode, Shinhati and Balin are separated.
Yeah.
But they're still
on this planet.
Yeah.
It's clear that like
absolutely wild.
Does this mean they're going to recast Balin? They have to recast Balin now.
Dude, and what would be so frustrating about that is it'd be so hard to do that. Like Balin's skull, in my mind, is absolutely iconic. And his character is one of my favorites in literally all of Star Wars. Like the way that he carries himself, and we talked about this last episode, like truly it's Game of Thrones-esque. Like he has this poise about him, and it's going to be I almost hope that they figure out how to not recast him and just to let that character live as its peak of what it could be, and hopefully figure out like a plot around that, the fact that he's no longer living. Like, because his character is so incredibly good. Like, there's certain characters that you can recast, and this might be a hot take, so sorry if anybody's like a huge Harry Potter fan. I
disagree with you on this one. We'll let you finish.
But like Dumbledore is pretty recastable because it's just like wise, super old guy with long white hair. Like that's doable. Like Balin is like, I don't know, he has all these features that are super unique.
I have a feeling they're going to recast him and it's going to be fine. And this happens in major shows like Game of Thrones. There's a character called Daario Naharis who is essentially a mercenary warrior who ends up allying himself with Daenerys Targaryen. You will eventually learn of Daario Naharis when we finally
maybe one
Game
day.
of Thrones.
I'll harden my heart so I can watch it.
But Daario Naharis is brought in at the end of one season, and then they open up the next season with just a recast of Daario Naharis, and it's fine.
It's fine.
And it's fine because, you know, like at the end of the day, two reasons. One, Daario Naharis' original character wasn't there for long. So, like, it wasn't like he was around for 4 seasons and then they recasted him. Like, he was there for, like, a short span at the end of a season and then they recasted him. Balin has been on screen for all of 10 minutes in the show.
Okay.
So, like, I don't think recasting him is good. And, again, like, obviously it's an absolute tragedy. And here's the thing that's funny is, like, well, not funny, but the tragedy.
Choose your words carefully.
The tragedy extends, like, the tragedy really has nothing to do with Star Wars. It's about his family.
Oh, of course.
Oh,
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
His death is tragic. But like within the scope of the Star Wars universe, like it is sad really, from the standpoint of like he did an amazing job.
He did an incredible job.
But they will find another talented actor to do that job.
Well, and here's a workaround. Is they like in Star Wars they've always put people in suits and in masks. Like they could very well just do that for that character so it's not distracting. Like you could literally have a Balin skull where you very rarely see his face because he's in some dope armor, right? Like, or that like he maybe was injured severely like Darth Vader and all of a sudden he's like a man behind the mask rather than like his regular, you know, Balin skull features. Like there's a lot of ways they could get around it, and
or he could literally die and against this character or whatever this thing is, and then Shinhati could show up or Ahsoka could show up and they could be like, where's Balin? And then he could be like, I killed him here, you know. Like,
true. There's a lot of ways to work around it that works. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I'm very, very excited to see where this all goes.
Man.
I'm more than a little bit bummed about just the simple fact that like it could be a while before we find out.
I know.
We do have some holdovers.
Really long time,
it could be a really long time, like especially with the writer's strike. Like it could be a really long time. And from what I understand, the Screen Actors Guild, so like the actors are actually still on strike.
Wow.
So I'm not certain of all the details, but it could be a little while, which is unfortunate. But like we do have the Acolyte show, which has already been produced. That'll be coming out in the spring. And again, like what we're gonna do too is we're gonna take like a much deeper dive into all of these individual topics after we've kind of
sure.
familiarized ourselves with them more. And I'm sure there'll be theories. Like every single week we've done an episode, we've come back and learned from our listeners. I've had people that our listeners tipped us off to the ribbon keeping the stormtroopers alive.
Correct.
Our listeners tipped us off to Abeloth. Our listeners have tipped us off to a bunch of
It's been
different
really
stuff.
cool. Yeah, it's been super, super cool.
Because here's the thing, like Luke and I love Star Wars and we know a lot about Star Wars, but there are a lot of people out there that know a hell of a lot more about Star Wars than we know about Star Wars. So that's the fact. We just love it. And
for like our new listeners, like it sounds like a joke, but it's real. Like Jason and I legitimately created this podcast because we were getting in trouble by our wives for talking about Star Wars
it's
too
literally
much.
that simple.
Like legitimately, like they're like, hey, like we think it's cool that you guys have a passion. Good on you. But this is super annoying when we're out to dinner and like eating a nice dinner and you guys are talking about Star Wars like a bunch of children. And that's where this podcast got created. So like, yes, like you and I are huge Star Wars nerds. There's always a bigger fish. So like when you guys give us information about, you know, what's going on with Star Wars, like it's incredible for us and we love to read it in the comments. I have a question for you. What is your take on Sabine and the Force and where she's at?
I thought it made sense that like when she was in a point of desperation, she was finally able to tap into it in a way that made sense. Her pulling on the lightsaber while the zombie stormtrooper is trying to get at her is actually a really cool scene.
Yeah,
and it was a zombie death trooper.
It was a zombie death trooper with a gaping like mouth that was about to bite her. Dude, it was like the dopest thing, man.
It was cool. It doesn't bother me from the standpoint of like, It's throughout the Star Wars universe too that like we always just associate every single Force user with Jedi, but like there are a lot of people that are not Jedi or Sith that have a connection to the Force in some way, shape, or form. It's a
technically
common thing.
Everybody does.
Yeah, and so like just because Sabine isn't as powerful as some of the more powerful Jedi out there, just because Sabine isn't someone that was identified at birth as someone that had that talent doesn't mean that she doesn't.
Correct.
And like, it's not like she turned into some world beater. She pulled a lightsaber to her hand and then she pushed Ezra.
Correct.
In both instances of supreme
Life or
urgency. I think the pulling of the lightsaber and killing the Death Trooper gave her the confidence to do the push.
Correct. I agree.
Because she was the one who pitched it to Ezra.
Yeah.
And she was like, the longer you're hesitating about this, like the less likely it is to happen.
Yeah.
And I could imagine Ezra's like hesitancy is like, the last time I saw her, she couldn't do any of this. And this is a long fall.
Yeah, she couldn't move a cup. No, dude, I totally agree. Like, I was kind of a hater on the whole entire Sabine Force use thing. And I was open about that, I think 1 or 2 episodes ago. When she used the Force exquisitely, I think is the word I'm going to use here. When she used the word the Force exquisitely here, I thought it was totally fitting. And because of the point that you make up, like,
that symbology is just really interesting.
The symbolism. No, but like it totally is fitting because we know that Force users, apparently, aka Sabine Wren, tend to be more powerful when Fitz hitting the shan. And in this case, like we're literally talking about the livelihood of an entire galaxy that was about to hit the shan. You know what I mean? So like I think it totally works. I'm shocked. Like if I was to watch this podcast before I watched that episode, I'd be like, dude, where are you coming from? That makes no sense. Like Sabine is not a Force user, and the fact that they're pushing this makes absolutely no sense. Like that's where I was 2 episodes ago. But like it totally worked, man. And not only that, but like seeing a green lightsaber go through the head of a zombie death trooper.
A little shout back to The Last Jedi.
So cool. So what do you mean by that?
When Rey throws the lightsaber to Kylo Ren, and then he goes,
it's like, so cool. You're right. You're totally right. Yeah, you're totally right. With like, what are they called? I forget what the red guys are called.
Well, they were like the guard, the royal guard.
Yeah,
for Snoke.
There's a specific term for them. I can't remember, but dude, it totally worked. I'm absolutely shocked that Sabine using the Force at that capacity, which was a high capacity, worked for me.
Yeah, it worked. The way they built it up was nice, and again, she didn't do anything all that crazy.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool seeing Ezra get to build his lightsaber at the beginning of the episode.
Dude, it was, man.
And what it was kind of cool about it too is it kind of signified basically Ezra was honoring the fact that he gave that lightsaber to Sabine and that it belonged to her, and then he wanted to create his own.
Where did he get the kyber crystal from?
Hu Yang presumably would have some.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Hu Yang just has some on.
But
on
just
reserve.
like he literally said he had his master Caleb Doom. He had his an extra emitter that mimicked the one that his master had, which was really cool too.
Jason was talking about how like it'd be really hard to have Caleb Doom like live action character.
Kanan Jarrus.
Kanan Jarrus
in Rebels, also known as Caleb Doom.
Yeah, so they're both the same.
He changed his name to survive the purge.
He has just a rock hard goatee.
Yeah, just like a little goatee. And they would soul patch. Right?
Soul patch. I mean,
yeah,
soul
so like
patch.
the little thing right under the
And we were talking about the fact that like. He probably isn't going to be live action just because that would be
they'd have to have a soul patch.
distracting thing. Like it works for like an animated series for some reason, but like dude just running around with a soul patch, like dude, that would be distracting.
Well, so it was funny because like I watched the episode a little bit before Luke, but then what we've been doing for these pods is like we get our wives together and we have dinner. And then essentially they drink wine and talk while we go record. Is essentially how it goes. And
like go play, children.
Yeah. And so we put Luke and Elena's son to bed, and then we go record.
Yeah.
And so I came over and my wife made dinner while I was watching it, and then we brought dinner over. And Luke was sitting on the couch for the final scene where Ahsoka's like looking at Anakin, right? But Anakin hadn't showed up yet. And so like Luke, I sit on the couch next to Luke and the camera's panning out and he's like, is that going to be Kanan Jarrus that's watching them? And I'm like, I was just trying not to spoil it. And he's like, actually, that'd be really weird because of the soul patch.
Yeah, it'd just be too distracting in live action.
Man.
One of my all-time favorite Star Wars characters, but like, don't give me live action because I think his soul patch would just be terrible.
I think you just find a way. I think you find a workaround. Just give him a big ass beard, and then people would just accept it.
They'd have to.
The problem is you could never bring, and I said this to you on the couch, you can't bring a live action Kanan Jarrus in a moment like that because like nobody knows him in the casual fans. Like at least.
Dude, that's
at
one
least
of my
with
takes
Ezra,
for
they
next week,
described who Ezra was for a while, showed you a hologram. They took their time to really like demonstrate that.
True.
Was there anything else in your notes that you wanted to hit?
No, man. I think that's it. I'm dying to know Shinhati's line. Like wherever she is going, whatever she's up to, like it's terribly interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all of it, it's one of the most interesting things. Like it's very like odd to me that she's just with this band of mercenaries.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's going to be a big character in Star Wars. I feel like low key a huge character.
I agree, and I'm very, very excited to find out. I do have one last topic. So this was our first season of live action Thrawn.
Okay,
and I think there's a very specific purpose to why they showed him like this. I think Dave Filoni wanted to show Thrawn as desperate, and I think it was,
which is rare.
I think I think it served a very specific purpose. It's very possible that one of the reasons Thrawn's stormtroopers and their staffing has gone down so much is possibly something with these Mortis gods, right? It's very possible that he was terrified and just wanted to get the hell out of there.
I think I agree. I agree.
But there was this funny thing that happened in this episode where like everything he tried failed, and you could see him get a little irritated.
Yeah.
Like he was like, it's like the TIE fighters failed and he'd get a little irritated.
And then he'd like try and spin it to a good thing.
Yeah. And then he'd be like, prepare for ground assault. And then like, he'd be like, we're going to, rain hellfire on them. And then they would get through that. And he'd kind of have like a little scowl. And then like, he'd send the troopers
He'd have
down,
that moment of silence where he'd just be a little bit frustrated.
Yeah. Which was interesting because Thrawn is never frustrated.
Yeah.
He's never frustrated ever in any of the books or even in Rebels, really, except for when the Bendu comes and when the Purgles come at the end, right?
Yeah, which is a Rebels reference.
The pass I'll give him is, like, again, I think they were trying to make him look desperate under the circumstances. And again, like, I think when he gets back to the Empire and is in a seat of real power, he might have a better just more Thrawn-y vibe. But it was so funny because then Ahsoka's in quick pursuit. And Thrawn drops this like epic line, which was classic Thrawn, which was basically like, I know you because I know your master.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why I knew how you would act. And by the way, victory is mine.
Yes.
Long live the Empire. Punch it, Chewie.
Yeah.
And then they
go off
disappear.
into
And then they
hyperspace.
disappear into hyperspace. And
no, that was cool.
It was kind of cool. That was like the Thrawniest Thrawn line of the entire season. But it was weird because it followed an episode where everything he didn't work.
Yeah.
And he constantly looked frustrated. But
Agreed.
at the end of the day, like, to Thrawn, you could tell it's like, just get me the hell out of here.
No,
and
I know.
I'll be fine.
Well, and what's cool is he has a profound respect for like Sabine and Ezra and Ahsoka, because he was talking about how improbable it was that they were going to be able to have a successful ground assault. And even in that same line, he's like, it's highly improbable, which is why we should plan on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that was so cool. Like, that was so cool. And that too was Thrawn-esque. Like, he knew the probability. He knew the numbers on this, and he knew that he was going against essentially Jedi. And he was like, yeah, like you can never expect the expected with Jedi. And like, that was so dope, I thought.
Like he again, Thrawn's 3 failures on record in Star Wars canon is him failing with the Garwins for not realizing that they were actually using him to
book reference. Don't
even worry about it. But it was because of his political blind spots.
Count that as one.
Yeah, that was his political blind spots. And then the Bendu, which was a Force user, and then the
Rebels
Purgles
reference. If you don't know what that is, that's fine too.
And then the Purgles, which ended up being
another Rebels reference.
Which ended up being,
know what that is. It's okay.
But the Purgle reference ended up being, the Purgles, essentially, Ezra was able to communicate with them through the Force and plan this whole thing. And so,
terribly unlikely.
But 2 of his 3 failures on record were associated with the Force, and that's one of his blind spots, essentially the Force and politics. And so, ironically, he used the Force in the sense that he partnered with a Force user in the Night Mothers. But like it was interesting because at the end of the day, he did win.
Of course,
he had one goal,
which was
Ahsoka's
to get the hell out of there, man.
Purpose was to stop him from getting back.
Yeah. Ask Thrawn if he's upset that he
lost some more TIE fighters and some stormtroopers.
No, that he made it back to Dathomir, which we haven't even talked about yet. And I don't even know if we can talk about, because I don't even know what the hell is going on with Dathomir now all of a sudden. Anyways, ask Thrawn if he's upset that he got the Chimera, the Star Destroyer, which is Thrawn's dope-ass Star Destroyer, all the way back to the known universe with all of those presumably caskets that they're going to reanimate. And Sabine and Ahsoka, 2 of his biggest rivals, are stuck on some godforsaken galaxy and no longer his problem.
Except for one of the few people that's beat him.
Oh, Ezra?
Yeah.
Yeah. But ask him if he's upset about
not at all.
Those cards. Yeah,
exactly.
He's not. He's happy.
I hope that we get an extended stretch of several episodes in whatever the next season is, where Thrawn just fucks shit up and is like actually the
Thrawn-esque.
dude. You know what I mean? Yeah, because like to me, like that, like you can attest to this. When you're reading the Thrawn books, all he does is win everything.
Yeah.
And then all they do is tell a story of a time in the past where he did win. He just happened to win for somebody that was manipulating him, and it ended up being something that wasn't something he should have done. But like, he did win in this particular situation.
Dude,
and
dude wins.
And we won't even get into And then like, even in Rebels, like, it's so funny. It'll be like, they'll be in a position where they can stop them from escaping with 7 Y-wing starfighters, and like Thrawn will be like, let them go. Like, let them leave with their meager prize. Like, and then he'll be like, as you can see, I narrowed down the location of the rebel base to these. And, like, all he does is win. Like, it's so
it's
like
crazy.
And so the thing is
awesome.
like, to see him in a season like this, where like technically he still won, but like everything went wrong for him, was actually weird, because like that just doesn't happen. Like, I'll give you an example. Hey, let's send those 2 starfighters and engage, the Jedi
the TIE fighters.
Yeah. And like, there is no moment in the books where he's like, send in, let's engage in this strategic endeavor, and then it fails, and then he goes like, all right, let's try this. Like it just doesn't happen. And so like, it's kind of weird seeing Thrawn fail, and seeing Thrawn kind of somewhat anemic in his ability to enforce his will on a situation. I hope they show the other side of that.
He's truly anemic. Like by definition, he has anemia in regards to like his forces. Like legitimately, the Chimera, again, his Star Destroyer, is pieced together, because of damage that had happened with Purgles. Like his ragtag forces of stormtroopers with their red ribbons, are still incredibly loyal to him, but that they're on short supply. Like all of these things, to the point where all of their helmets are degrading and they have to fix it with gold.
Smells like gold.
Even the TIE fighters who get no action, like the TIE fighter pilots, they're not in a hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, well, and
even they had gold.
2 TIE fighters when this is a dude who consistently has sent squadrons of fighters out.
If he has the numbers, he'll send them.
His back is against the wall.
Truly, he's truly anemic. That is the perfect word that you used. It's perfect word. And that's just it. When we see Thrawn in the known universe, I hope and I presume we'll see a more wholesome, healthy Thrawn, right? And his ability to command battles.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Does Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals offense qualify as anemic?
Dude, literally the definition.
Does your ankle and its stability qualify as anemic?
Yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, I've got a terrible right ankle that just gives out on me. I'm 30 years old, and it's essentially mush and about twice the size of my other ankle at all times, even when
he literally will stand in front of me sometimes and just kind of shift his weight, and his ankle joint will dislocate. True story.
Yeah, I need to figure that out.
The wild part is he's played in my men's league before, dude, just dirty work role player at the 4.
Yeah, man.
But
heavy hitter. Buddy.
Did it ever pop out during a game, or did you wear a brace?
No, wore the brace. Dude, I've done everything, man.
That's right. You wore my
tour
brace.
To Tucson with the bummed ankle, a 100-mile bike ride. Dude, it doesn't slow me down. I don't let it slow me down.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about 30 years from now.
Dude, I'm gonna get a new ankle. Dude, whatever healthcare is doing in 30 years, sign me up. I'll take the new ankle. Thanks, dude. I'm gonna have the equivalent of Anakin's hand as an ankle in 30 years.
Dude, I was talking about this to Carly because literally we were watching football at a buddy's house on Sunday, and Carly was hanging out with one of their kids and accidentally slipped on a mat that was on a carpet and rolled over the top of her foot and sprained her foot pretty bad. But it immediately swole up like a baseball on the side of her foot. It was crazy. And we were like, oh, she broke her foot, And she ended up going to get an x-ray yesterday, and it came back negative. So she just has a sprain and she's going to be fine. But I told Carly before she went in, because she was like, I'm nervous. Should I just put it in a boot? Should I just avoid this? And I told Carly, I was like, you have one foot. That's your only right foot that you're going to get in your time as a human being. So whatever it costs, I told her, I was like, if it costs $10,000 to fix your foot,
not in 20 years, dude,
then we have to pay $10,000 to fix your foot.
Anakin ankle, 20 years. Sign me up.
I just to me, because so I have multiple fucked up fingers from playing basketball. My right shoulder is I think I have either an AC joint or a rotator cuff. Something's going on up here. It's been okay as of late, but I go through phases where it gets worse, but it's irrevocably damaged. And it's just crazy to think, I think that was one of the biggest things that kind of dawned on me with getting older is you realize pretty quickly, I get one shot at this.
Dude, I know.
And whatever you mess up, because little things like what you eat.
Dude, I know.
It's it dawns on you pretty quickly that you're just everything you do on a daily basis is either going to serve to elongate your quality of life or to diminish your quality of life in the long run.
Totally agree. I had a long day yesterday at work, and I got home. I was like, shit, man, I really need a beer. And then I was like, I shouldn't drink a beer. I'm getting too old for this, and I'm 30, dude. It's a problem. We're gonna have to take care of ourselves. That way, we're of sound mind and body to continue Tucson's podcast.
Yes,
I can't even say it.
We'll be two 75-year-olds breaking down like some random Disney exec's terrible Star Wars product.
We'll be like, back when we were kids, we would never stand for this bullshit.
Let me tell you about Dave Filoni. Dave
Filoni, bring him back. Dude, this is derailed. I think we're done.
All right, guys. That is all we have for today. As always, we sincerely appreciate you supporting the show. We will be back about this time next week, maybe even a little bit sooner, to do an episode that just kind of does a further deep dive into some of the lore stuff. I need to refamiliarize myself with all of the Mortis God stuff from Clone Wars. We probably should familiarize ourselves with Abeloth a little bit more, because that's a Mortis God that is still alive, actually, theoretically, in that universe.
Via Legends paperwork.
Yes. And then the week after that, we'll probably start our breakdowns of the Bane book series.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're going to cover Bane November, so like 1 month and a week. So we're
really quick before you go into that, tap into the Bane audiobooks. They're incredible. Jason and I have only talked highly about the audiobooks related to Star Wars. Like, listen to them. They're awesome. They give so much backstory in a very interesting way. A lot of them are legends, but they give incredible backstory in an interesting way. Books that we would suggest would be all the Thrawn books. Whether it be Thrawn Ascendancy or Thrawn in the Empire, those are canon. Plagueis, which is
technically
Legends.
not canon.
Yeah, it's Legends. All the Bane books, which is Legends. Those are some of the big ones, and then the High Republic books, which are canon. Those are all awesome as well. So tap into those if you haven't. Like if you're wanting to learn more about Star Wars, like those are an awesome place to start.
Yeah, quick breakdown for those of you guys who don't know this already. All 6 Thrawn books, we have breakdowns back in the feed.
Yep. Check them out.
So you can find, like if you listen to the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th Thrawn book, there's a video for all 6 of them in our feed. Every High Republic book is in the feed. We have a breakdown. The High Republic books are very important because November 11th or something, like 5 weeks from now, they have the next book in the High Republic set coming out. Luke and I are going to get on that audiobook and read it and do a breakdown of that when it comes out. The High Republic's important because it's another era that Star Wars is looking to build out. This Acolyte show that's coming out in the spring is set in the High Republic. So I would imagine they're going to continue to build that era out. There are characters that have been photographed in live action in the Acolyte that are in these books. So like I highly recommend the High Republic books. I think there's been 5 so far, okay? And all 5 of them have been really good.
Yeah.
The second to last, the second to most recent one was a little slow, but the second one that followed that one up was excellent. So like they're all very, very good. We are reading the Bane trilogy right now. We will start doing those breakdowns on our feed. After the Bane trilogy, we'll do Plagueis. That'll be on the feed. I think we plan on doing Heir to the Empire, which is the non-canon Legends books as well, or non-canon Thrawn books as well. So like just keep an eye on the feeds. Read along with us. We plan on doing a pod basically every week in perpetuity, and then that should carry us into the Acolyte, which is coming out in the spring. And then hopefully next summer they're gonna have some more content in this storyline because I can't get enough of this, man. And I hope we get more soon. I hope they don't make us wait too long.
Last thing is like, it's cool to feel this excitement about Star Wars, which has honestly been lacking a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love Star Wars, right? Like, but I didn't get this excited about like Mandalorian episodes. Like, I didn't get this excited about even some of the Kenobi stuff. I didn't get this excited about like a lot of the stuff that they've been coming out with. But this truly excited me. This last episode of Ahsoka, like legitimately excited me. And Dave Filoni is an absolute mastermind. And next week we'll talk about like some of the other bigger theories that I have that Dave Filoni might be working on to try and mend what is a slightly broken Star Wars universe with episodes 7, 8, and 9 of the movies.
I'm very excited to hear this.
I think it's like bigger picture stuff that he's trying to like work in and fix. So
that's great.
Like I'm truly excited.
Yeah, I will say that I 100% agree with you. I have experienced, this is going to sound cheesy, but like emotion as a fan of Star Wars during the Ahsoka series that I haven't experienced since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it's been really cool.
Dude.
And in Dave Filoni we trust.
In Dave Filoni we trust.
My empty
second
beer.
drink of the night, yeah.
Thank you guys so much for supporting us. This season has been really fun to see the show grow. Like we basically doubled or even tripled in size during this season of Ahsoka. So I really, really appreciate you guys rocking with the show. Those of you who came over from Hoops Tonight, shout out. Yep. This feed is going to become, obviously we talk Star Wars, but we actually talk other things as well. We talk Game of Thrones, we talk Lord of the Rings. We plan on doing movie reviews. In general, this is just going to be the place to come for everything that's not related to the NBA.
Yep.
So we appreciate you guys coming to hang out with us, and we will see you next week.
Thanks a lot.